Hello everyone, welcome to the episode 14 of SoLeadSaturday. Our today's guest, Abhishek Thakur, he is unique because he is one and only world's first four times recognized Kaggle's Grandmaster, and now he is working as Chief Data Scientist for Boost.ai. So let's hear his career journey. How did he find his passion and manage to be one of the leaders in the areas he is passionate about? So, welcome, Abhishek, and thank you so much for being a guest on Solid Saturday podcast.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well. So, thank you so much for being available on Saturday. Really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
So, to begin with, actually, when I saw your profile, right? So, I saw that after 2013, you have like continuous growth in the field of data science. So, what do you think that how did you manage to grow in that particular field?
Yes, so a lot of hard work went into it. It didn't come in a day, and I'm still learning. And well, it was in 2013 when I started learning about machine learning and data science, and I
Mm-hmm.
found Cackle, and a lot of friends of mine were always talking about Kaggle. Sorry, not about Kaggle, about machine learning and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always wondering. So I also took a course in the university about machine learning and data mining, but I didn't fare very well.
Mm-hmm.
And the course focused on the theoretical aspects. So uh, theoretical aspects which are easy to learn, but nobody talks about applied machine learning. So I started learning about applied machine learning using Kaggle. So I would have a lot of sleepless nights, implement papers on my own, and learn about new algorithms, and then try to implement them, use them in Kaggle. So that was that time, and that time I was also doing my master's thesis, and I was also working as a student. So
Mm-hmm.
I had like three different things to work on,
Mm-hmm.
and after 9 or 10 months, when I felt comfortable, I started applying for jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and it took me a lot of rejections to find my first job,
Mm-hmm.
actually, because nobody wants to hire a fresher.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, Kaggle, people knew about Kaggle, but probably it was not as popular as it is now. So only a few people in the industry care about Kaggle, and
Mm-hmm.
if I'm looking for something and I'm getting rejections everywhere, I started applying for all kinds of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So like all kinds of like software developer, engineer, whatever kind of job were available. But my focus was always on data scientist jobs, and then I got my first job in Berlin as a data scientist,
Mm-hmm.
and it was mainly also because they had heard of Kaggle, and I had a good profile at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had recently I had started 10 months ago, 10 11 months it had been, and yeah, they liked the profile. They invited me for interview,
Mm-hmm.
so I was coding the whole day, and they liked what I built at the end of the day, so they hired me. It was a good job. I got to learn about the industry, how everything works in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So the continuous growth, I think you saw the titles, right?
Yeah.
Right, and yeah, the thing is, after the first job, I took a time off. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do a PhD, so you would have seen different titles if I had finished my PhD, but
Yeah.
things turned the other way. So I dropped out of my PhD and then joined as a senior data scientist in a company in Berlin. Then, after spending one more year there, uh, so whenever I switched my jobs, I also asked for a higher
Mm-hmm.
role than the
Mm-hmm.
previous one, because if I'm working as a senior data scientist in some
Mm-hmm.
company, and then I go to a role of a junior data scientist, it's not going to look good in my profile,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was always the reason to like keep the level the same or improve it a bit. So the growth, I think it's because of the boom in this industry, in data science industry, and so many companies I think almost all the companies, they want data scientists, and the startups, when they start hiring, first of all they hire some operations guy and then data scientist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that. Everyone is hiring data scientists, and nowadays everyone is a data scientist. So that's why you
Yeah.
see uh, everyone wants to be a data scientist,
Yeah.
rather, I should say that.
Mhm.
And that's why you see this kind of continuous growth, and
Yeah. So
it's
you
been
mentioned that,
six
you know,
seven years
like, yeah. So you mentioned already that there is a like lot of hard work. So what were your major challenges actually when you were doing it by yourself? You were learning because it was a lot more like a self learning, I can see.
Yeah,
So
it was
what
a
were
lot
the
of.
major obstacles or the challenges for you?
So first of all, I was from a completely different background.
Mm-hmm.
I studied computer science masters, but my bachelor's was in electronics engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this exam in India called the AI Triple A, and
Mm-hmm.
if you fare well, then you get
Mm-hmm.
some good branches, good college. So I got a good college,
Mm-hmm.
but I to get a to so to get computer science, I would have had to have much better rank. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that. So I got electronics in a good
Mm-hmm.
college. That was nice. So I studied, and my I always wanted to do something with computers. So I thought, okay, if I'm out of this university, after that, I'm going to study computer science.
Mm-hmm.
So during my engineering days, I started applying for internships, and I got a good internship in image processing, biomedical imaging in the
Mm-hmm.
University of Warwick. And from there, this journey started. So going into computer science, and uh, I was in computer science, but I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
about algorithms, basic computer science algorithms. So I had to study all of
Mm-hmm.
that on my own. And then when I moved, so even in my computer science days, I was working on image processing, but it was because it was like very close to signal processing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw my friends talking about natural language processing and machine learning, then uh, I kind of developed some kind of interest, and I wanted to learn it on my own. And then I found Kaggle, and it provides you with a platform, where whether either you can give up very easily, or you can grow, you can learn from other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I had all the time in the world
Mm-hmm.
after my day job, after my student job. So I think that was 20 hours a week, and after that, my master's thesis, and I had nothing else to do. So instead of going outside playing football or watching movies, I used to
Mm-hmm.
learn some new algorithms of machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with basic YouTube videos and all, and
Mm-hmm.
also reading lots of new papers on my own. So yeah, like
Okay, so it's
reading and
like, you know,
implementing.
you being the proactive actually. So you found your interest and you were interested actually to learn this
Yeah,
data,
exactly.
right, the technology. So that is more or like you being the proactive and approaching the people, learning, finding out the ways you how effectively you can learn.
Yeah, exactly, it was like that.
Yep.
So yeah, it was my interest, and it came from others, obviously, but yeah, I invested quite a lot of time in learning and
Mm-hmm.
on my own.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me as well because if you have an interest, you anyhow find the ways to learn it. So definitely you found your way of like, you know, what best works for you and then
Yeah,
you
exactly.
found the growth. So I guess we covered these questions actually. So you already shown that you found your interest and then how you managed to grow in that particular and pursue that passion actually towards the data science. So people who are not aware actually, so Abhishek has his YouTube channel as well. So you can check out actually. So he does lots of webinars as well, I guess you do. So please do subscribe to his YouTube channel. Moving to the next question, like, you know, these are like a different titles in the uh, data scientist field, like data scientist, senior data scientist, principal data scientist, chief data scientist, kind of. So what changes do you see actually in this area, like from 2013 to 2020, how this area is grown or evolving?
I think it was beginning of 2014,
Mm-hmm.
not 2013, when I joined my first company. In 2013, I started applying towards the end. So from data scientist to what I'm now,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I haven't changed much, in the sense like I still code.
Mm-hmm.
So I code quite a lot, and I cannot quit coding. So that part has not changed. What
Mm-hmm.
has changed, like in 2014, it was difficult for me to convince people to put a model like random forest in production,
Mm-hmm.
but it's much easier now. So I can convince people easily, and what many different things have changed. So technology has also changed, and
Mm-hmm.
at that time we didn't have GPUs, or GPUs were very expensive to put it
Mm-hmm.
in production environment. So that has changed. Now it's much cheaper and to experiment a lot. So with different titles it also changes, like how you can so I've always worked in product companies,
Mm-hmm.
so building contributing towards a certain product. And it also changes when your title grows,
Mm-hmm.
uh, your seniority grows, and you can convince more people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more about convincing the management. If the management doesn't want to put something in production, then you're, as a data scientist, all your work is going to die
Mm-hmm.
inside a presentation,
Yeah.
right? You're going to present it and then it's going to die. So that part changes quite a lot
Mm-hmm.
as you grow.
Mm-hmm.
That has certainly changed a lot for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but coding is still there.
Coding is still there. And
Yeah,
is
it's
there
still
any
there.
favorite programming language of yours?
Python is bread
Python.
and
Okay.
butter. So
Okay. And then what are the like changes in the roles and responsibilities you see in these roles?
yeah, with from a data scientist to senior data scientist position, you don't have to care so much about the product. You do have to care, but not like you don't have to invent something, because there are always your managers, team leaders who do that. Principal data scientist, chief data scientist role, I have to look much deeper into the product, try to understand each and every part of it, and try to see where can machine learning be used wisely. So it's not like data science, machine learning, just
Mm-hmm.
use it everywhere in the product. So we cannot do that, and
Mm-hmm.
so I have to try to find out those certain parts um, where machine learning can be effectively used.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to also take the initiative on your own
Mm-hmm.
to try to implement something, and not just during your working hours, but try to implement something and then try to convince people, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I have already implemented this is a prototype and this works,
Mm-hmm.
and we can try to scale it and see what happens. So if you build a prototype, if you try to convince people, so I didn't have to do all that stuff when I was in the junior roles,
Mm-hmm.
but now I have to take some initiatives on my own. So yeah, that's big change.
Okay, that's good. When we are talking about this, like, your interesting projects, like, do you have any interesting project insights or anything that you would like to share? Like anything,
Interesting
like, yeah,
projects.
yeah, interesting project you worked on so far, or it's like anything that you always remember in your career
So
growth.
yeah, I mean, every project is interesting to me because I get to learn a lot from them.
Mm-hmm.
So the first company I worked at, I worked in real time bidding.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very new to me, and that was very interesting. Then after that, when I was doing my PhD, I was also working as a consultant, freelance consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a lot of crazy, interesting projects there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Mainly is natural language processing related to AutoML recommender systems, these kind of things. So, and after that, since then, I've been working mostly with natural language processing.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that I'm doing now, it's like it's one of the most interesting things where we are building conversational AI, and yeah, that's pretty interesting to serve. So not just from like the machine learning point of view, but also from machine learning engineering, to
Mm-hmm.
serve so many models and to have a response time which is very less, to reduce the false positives,
Mm-hmm.
when to respond to end user, when to say no, sorry, I don't know. So these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, if I have to choose one, I cannot really, because all of these projects have been interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned from
Yeah.
all of
And
them
then
a lot.
when we are talking about these all Kaggle competitions you participated in, right? So
Yeah.
is there any interesting competition that you participated that you would like to ask people to check it out till
Yeah,
now?
so long time ago there was a competition from Stumble Upon,
Mm-hmm.
and then that was one of my favorite competitions where I also shared publicly for the first time. I shared some code,
Mm-hmm.
and it received quite good
Mm-hmm.
response, and that was basically, I think that was first natural language processing competition that I participated in, and I got to learn a lot from it. So it was HTML data, and you had to
Mm-hmm.
classify into certain classes. So I learned about cleaning HTML, handling text, so all sorts of things. So I think that's one of the competitions that
Mm-hmm.
people should take a look at.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
simple, it's easy, but there's a lot to learn from one single competition, from that single competition. I also like that because that's when
Mm-hmm.
I got my first top 10,
Mm-hmm.
uh, not first but like top 6. I was sixth, and it was just a good competition,
Mm-hmm.
so got to learn a lot of stuff.
Okay, surely actually people would love to check that out.
Yeah,
So
but nowadays it's like it's more about deep learning and images, so
yeah,
that's a different field.
and you have actually the Kaggle started because you didn't had like data sets easily available to
Yeah,
explore by yourself and do personal projects. So that's why Kaggle platform was much more in the demand that time. Now you have like a free data source, open data source
that's true.
available.
Yeah.
So you have a lot more scope actually if you want to do work on your personal projects. But
Yeah, but a lot of people
you
don't
feel
do
Kaggle
that.
is still recommendable. Like you should check out the Kaggle first.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do a personal project,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of exposure you can get doing that project on Kaggle is much
Mm-hmm.
more than if you just do it on your own time, and nobody comes to know about what you did.
Okay. And one more question, actually, it is not part of the list, but couple of my interviews before that people mentioned that, there is always a gap between the domain knowledge and the data scientist role. So how do you look into it actually? Do you feel that domain knowledge is hard to gain or you can learn
uh,
it along the side?
Well, you learn a lot more when you're working in the industry, obviously. So, okay, let's compare Kaggle and industries now. So
Mhm,
Kaggle, you get the data set. Okay, if you have worked with natural language processing, you can handle text data. It's okay,
mhm,
but there's always many different new things to learn. So
mhm,
previously, there was people would start from TF-IDF or
mhm,
count vectorizer. These
mhm,
days, nobody even touches that. People directly go to BERT,
mhm,
and some people don't even know about TF-IDF. So the world has come to
mhm,
yeah, this level. But so like domain knowledge. I mean, if you're working with a SEO company, let's
mhm,
say, so you are still handling text data, but you have to think a little bit differently there,
mhm,
right? So all these domain knowledge will only come when you're working in industry,
mhm,
and or solving a problem for few months,
mhm,
right? When you have to read about it. So yeah, it's very important to have domain knowledge, and people who have domain knowledge in competitions or in industries, they excel more. But it's not like if you don't have domain knowledge you cannot gain it. So
mhm.
that will come by experience, by working in the industries for some period of time.
Yeah. So it plays a major important role. And then when we
It
talk
does, yeah.
about, yeah, so your role as a chief data scientist, right? You must be a part of decision making as well when it comes to like, you build the machine learning model, and when we are done with the benefit analysis or the feasibility testing, how it can be moved to the larger scales and how it can benefit to the employer or the organization.
Yeah.
So what goes under that process specifically?
So I work in a startup company,
Mm-hmm.
and when I started, we were 20 people 2.5 years back,
Mm-hmm.
and now we are 100, over 100 people now.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we work is a little bit different than other industries, like
Mm-hmm.
the larger industries where data scientist role is very limited to making explorations, building few models, and then transferring it to a different team to put it to production. So here, data scientists are doing end-to-end
Mm-hmm.
work, from starting from EDA analysis, if there is any, to building models and making sure that it's going to pass all the stress tests,
Mm-hmm.
putting it into production. So uh, here, most of the testing that we do on these models before putting to production is
Mm-hmm.
by uh, us, by the data scientists, by the machine learning engineers.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't go for like a full round of testing with involving many people
Mm-hmm.
before. So first we have to test it ourselves. Then we do a major testing, and that kind of testing says, okay, if it's good for production or not.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
can you repeat the last part of your question?
So it was moreover like, when we see that, like feasibility testing, like we always do that, feasibility testing first to
Hmm.
whether we find out that there is a benefit for that data to
Yeah.
build the
Okay. So
model, and
so
then, yeah, so.
that mostly comes from some brainstorming sessions for us.
Mhm.
So we brainstorm, we try to implement some ideas, we don't try to go too complicated, and then we like try to implement
Mhm.
things, like small things first, and try to improve on that further.
Okay, yeah,
So
that
yeah,
makes sense. Actually, it's more over like a iterative process as well.
it is an
So
iterative
it is
process. Yeah.
collaborating with the different teams and taking the opinions and brainstorming, as you said, is the
Yeah.
important stage. Again, moving back to the modeling, like you mentioned, that startup gives a more opportunity to learn people. Actually, you can be involved into all the phases of the machine learning modeling, deployment, and all the phases involved. Like starting from data extraction to the deployment of the model, you get to exposure towards all the phases of the modeling. So when it comes to modeling phases, there is a data cleaning, which is people are talking a lot more about. So what is your approach when it comes to the data cleaning?
Yeah, so the first part is obviously looking at the data and doing some exploratory analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, data cleaning is very, very important part, and it also depends on what kind of industry you work in. So like if you're trying to build a deep learning model for images, you would like to have as much data as you want, as you can, right? So try to collect as much data as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're working in let's say a banking firm, and your job is to say like do some kind of fraud detection kind of thing, so you will have a lot of missing values. So how to fill in those missing values, or you're doing some forecasting, then the
Mm-hmm.
problem becomes even more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And in text data, natural language processing, uh, so it becomes difficult from when you go from one language to another.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you build some kind of pipeline that works for all languages? So that's like one of the most important things for me
Uh-huh.
right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, cleaning is important, and it's very
Crucial
it's a
task as
very time
well.
consuming and but
Yeah.
very important part. But
Yeah.
you also have to understand that the cleaning pipeline that you built
Mm-hmm.
should, when you're working on live data, then it should be the same. So it should be the same for training data, for test data, for validation data,
Mm-hmm.
and how to use it, when to use it.
Yeah.
You should know that.
And any kind of automation platform do you use? Because there are a lot of automation tools now coming up into the machine learning and the AI side, right? So
Like
do you
AutoML.
use anything? Any automated platform like automated machine learning platform?
Okay, no, right now we don't use any kind of AutoML.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we will ever use that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that also depends on the industry. So big industries
Mm-hmm.
where people don't want to invest time building models, but
Mm-hmm.
the major part of the pipeline is to clean the data, putting it in a proper format. People spend a lot of time there,
Mm-hmm.
and building model is a very small time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think even like 20% of data scientist time is building the model, but it's all the work around the model, the pre-processing and
Yeah,
post-processing steps take
yeah.
a lot of time.
Yeah.
So if you want to avoid that kind of time, then you can probably use some AutoML tools. But once you start getting a getting hold of data, you won't want to use AutoML tools because they are going to take several days to give you best model. You can do that in a few hours.
Yeah.
After you have played around with many data sets, you can do that.
Yeah, I can definitely relate it. So, moving to the algorithm side, is there any favorite algorithm that you always prefer and why?
uh I like random forest a lot.
I heard it
Yes.
like from millions of people.
Yeah, so I like random forest a lot. XGBoost is one of my favorite boosting algorithms. So you have light GBM and XGBoost, these two
Mhm,
like competing with each other. But I like XGBoost more, and
mhm,
it's because it has way less number of parameters
mhm,
than light GBM. So it I can tune it manually. I don't have to go for a Bayesian approach.
mhm.
uh, and yeah, I mean, if you ask for favorites, then yeah, random forest, because I
Okay.
started with that, and
Yeah, everybody
XGBoost.
agrees.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true.
yeah. That's true. Actually, it's easy to get the insights and easy to build the model. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, moving to the next question. Actually, any kind of important skills you can recommend to the aspiring data scientists? Like, what these skills needs to be there when you are entering into the data science field or you want to be a data scientist, kind of.
So the thing is, these days people have a lot of theoretical knowledge,
Mm-hmm,
but when it comes to applied, a lot of people fail. And to improve that, and a lot of data scientists think like their job is only analytics and making some good graphs, impressing the managers, but they should think beyond that. If it's going to be useful to certain products of the company, they should try to make code much more readable and
mm-hmm,
useful to others.
mm-hmm.
So writing good code is one of these skills that I
It's
look at.
important. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, theoretical knowledge,
implementation is the major part.
the
Actually, people.
implementation is, yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite important. Theoretical knowledge, like
Mm.
everyone has theoretical knowledge these days.
Yeah, and it is like open source, so you have lots of stuff available online and free
Yeah,
of
there is
cost.
a lot of
So,
stuff available online, but the way you write code
right.
so that it's
Yeah.
more understandable to like, if somebody gives me, okay, I've written this, and if I cannot understand anything there,
Mhm.
then that's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
So
because I
that's,
have seen lots of people saying that, oh, if you give me the Python code, I can understand it. But when it comes to writing the lines of code, it's hard for the people. So it's
yeah, so
important that you put yourself into that shoes and, develop something like, by
yeah,
your.
yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely makes sense. So people do practice the coding. It is important skills to have. And then moving towards our leadership thing, actually, any leader that you follow or
Not,
admire always or look after, like, these are the skills that I always look into the leader.
I've always looked after my bosses. So when I was working for a company called Search Metrics,
Mm-hmm,
so my boss Marcus, so I've always looked after him. When I was
mm-hmm,
doing my PhD, I looked after my PhD supervisor. Right now, working for this company, I look after my CEO. So yeah, so I've always looked after people who have led me till now and
mm-hmm,
brought me to this level.
mm-hmm,
But if you ask me in general, then there's no public figure as of now. I have probably Elon Musk. I
mm-hmm,
like that. I like him a lot.
mm-hmm,
So yeah, he's like very hardworking guy,
mm-hmm,
working at several things and excelling at all of them. So that's
mm-hmm.
very difficult.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Moving to the next question is, do you want to say something like the way you also grown actually in the data science field? I should that you should be able to tell that, like, what one has to do to lead in the areas they are interested in, like, to grow in that area.
Well, if you're a student, you have a lot of time in the world, so don't make excuses like, oh, sorry, I don't have time. That's not possible. You do have time, and you can sleep a little bit less,
Mhm,
watch no movies, and try to spend your time in learning new things, new concepts.
mhm,
Because as a student, whatever you do during that time, that's going to shape your future. Like after 1 year, you will have a lot of time to watch movies, so you
Mhm.
shouldn't do that. But if you're a working professional and trying to switch your jobs,
Mhm.
then you have to find some time in the evening, like a couple of hours you can invest
Mhm.
to learn more about machine learning, try to implement ideas. If you're already a software developer, you
Mhm.
know about how to code, so you
Mhm.
don't have to invest much time there. But to learn the new concepts, you have to invest some time, and yeah, that requires some patience, but it's definitely possible.
Mhm.
uh, in a few months, you should reach a level where you can either compete in Kaggle competitions or you can open source some projects.
Mhm.
So that always helps. Open sourcing helps a lot.
Okay. So yeah, actually, I guess you covered the question that, any tips or advice you would like to give
Yeah,
to
I did.
people as
Yeah.
well. So that's good actually. So it's important that, you have the dedication, you are hardworking, and you're putting your efforts actually 100% to achieve what you want. So thank you so much for being my guest and all your time. Actually, being a guest on Saturday, it is a big deal. Sometimes
Thank you
people
very
are
much
like,
for inviting
they are
me.
not available. So thank you so much. Whenever I'll make this episode available, I will tag you so that people can directly connect with you on LinkedIn, as
Sure.
well as I said to the audience that he is available on the YouTube. Actually, he has his own YouTube channel, so you can subscribe to his YouTube channel. He takes the webinars as well. I guess he has one scheduled for the bird search algorithm, I guess, which is a recent one. So do check out his YouTube channel, and hope you will enjoy this episode and learn a couple of things about the data science, what's happening around. See you guys soon. Until we meet, happy leading. Let's lead together. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.